Well, hello there. This is Louis, aka Louis the French Monette, and you are listening to The Frenchie Talks About. On today's episode, we are talking about ego. And when I mean by we, I mean John and Tamika from Movie Lovers Unite. How are you doing today?
Hey,
Um,
thanks for having
hey,
me.
I'm doing pretty good, man. Thank you for asking.
Well, thank you very much for being on. Oh, random music is playing. Why? What the hell is happening? All right. The unexpected fun of having okay.
There we
Oh, okay.
Did you guys see anything? We're
Uh,
alive. This is not time.
go.
I like live shows. They're fun.
Yeah.
But they're
Live
so
shows are
messy
always
when
fun.
things go wrong.
Oh, sorry. My TV is distracting. So
All right. So
it's not porn, so that's good. That'd be awkward, right? Porn in the
no,
background.
no comment on that one.
Like, don't pay attention to that.
technical problems. Oh well.
At least you can
Man,
try to do your screen share.
and now things seem to stop working. Fuck it. I'm not gonna share screen. I'm just gonna read it off because I suck. All right. So I have no ego there, that's for sure. Well, thank you very much for coming back on the show. I know this is one subject we wanted to talk about, coming from our other subject. What is the measure of success? Because, success is in your own mind, right? Or sometimes what is written in front of you, what is expected of you. So it does attach to ego. Now, that being said, I wanted to read a description of ego. uh, the psychological side of ego is your ego is conscious mind, the part of your identity that you consider yourself. If you say someone has a big ego, you're saying you're too full of himself. So it is true. Your ego is your identity. It's the accumulation of all your experiences, all your preconceptions, all everything that you learned, all wrapped into one. Okay. Um, this can be hard because we're not aware usually of our own self ego. But I'll start with you, Tamika. How
No.
would you? Yeah, on the
It's
spot,
almost
Tamika.
Christmas Eve, Frenchie. Jeez.
Could you describe your ego, the best of your capacity,
Like my own ego or
your
ego in general?
your own ego?
Oh boy. Well, it is Oprah. Oprah. Okay. I'm gonna be very transparent right now because you're Frenchy and you suck it out of me any kind of way you can. Um
That's what he said.
oh I think my personal ego is, I wonder, can it be a mix of ambition? Because I think that I can be too ambitious sometimes for
Mm,
my own good. And the only way I know that I'm very ambitious is when I feel like I haven't taken care of myself. That I'm always like, I have to do this, I have to do that, go, go, go. And it's like I sacrifice my own mental health or
yeah,
taking care of myself. So I'm wondering, can ambition be a mix in with ego?
yeah, it could. I mean, it is yourself, right? So if yourself is
Hmm.
really driven by ambition, it's definitely part of ego. For you, John, can you explain your ego to people the way you can comprehend it?
The way that I comprehend it and everything is this: like, it's the will of keep on going until I have nothing left to actually give.
Mm,
It's like I have to offer myself to other people, and basically that's also a little bit of the fact that you can give so much until they actually start preying on your weakness. And
mm,
that's actually how I am, though. I'm just a big giver rather than a receiver. I've always have been, because I like to be a positive light for other people, but at the same time I actually have to slow myself down and not and just think rationally about what I'm doing, so that way I'm not actually being feed off of my own weakness, because people can actually switch that and reverse that on me to where they can actually do whatever they want.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's it almost sounds like a lack of ego in a sense to be able to
Mhm.
be pushed. Your ego is created by someone else, right? And it becomes your ego, but it's not necessarily something that is transpired by your own doing. If that
Right.
makes sense.
It does. And also too, I here's the thing. Sometimes it's actually hard to actually for me to know my own ego sometimes. In a sense, I can actually pick up on other people's ego because,
Mm.
you can actually see it in front of you rather than what other people see you as well. So what you're projecting, you don't realize that you're actually are projecting ego until somebody actually presents it to you. So that's also another thing.
It's true, and you see, when I do hirings at my work, it's one of the questions, and something I picked up from I think it was Mindhunters. But
Mm.
there's a scene that the FBI is trying to like recruit new people, right, and hire. And one of the questions they ask is, "What do other people perceive you as?" Right,
Right.
and that's a question I'll ask because usually they'll say, "Oh, I might seem lazy." What they're actually doing is projecting the actual true self that they have because it's separated. It's an opinion from the other person, right? But it's truly just them revealing who they really are. And I did really good hirings with that because I avoided people like, okay, that's what your answer is. Now you're barred. Fuck that. Because that's what ego is. It's really hard to accept one's ego. So usually manifests it in its own way without even the user, if you call humans in a sense, is aware of, right? And that always fascinated me because, in a sense, we all have like two sides of us: the side that we show people, right? The side that everyday interactions, but then we have the side that we're alone. No one is watching, no one is looking. That that person, those thoughts in that person's head is sometimes so completely different from what they show to other people or the way they think when they're surrounded with other people. So that duality always amazed me.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, do you guys have any examples of, don't have to name names, but situations you saw like the true ego of someone and how it made you feel, your perception, and etc.?
Let's see. For me, it's basically that I can actually. I would have to say it was somebody like a person in high school or whatever. I'm just using this as an example, but basically, it's just them thinking that they're better than everybody else. They don't want to listen to other people's opinions about them because of the fact they don't want to think about the negativity towards them because of the fact that it actually targets them, and also too because they also feel like they're being targeted and being criticized for who they are rather than listen to the negativities. They just want to hear about the positive stuffs about them and everything. It's always the negative is always the hardest thing to actually let someone talk about, especially whenever you're dealing with your own self.
Mm.
Yeah, there's almost like a pain, right? Sometimes that comes when like the person truly understands or is confronted with their true selves. Your brain just blocks it from you, right? And that's what is the interesting part is your brain that blocks, your brain that tells you, no, you can't think that, or no, you can't feel that, or you know what, hey, there's a hockey game, go watch that instead of talking to your girlfriend and set things up.
Yeah.
Now it goes to show that what or who's in control, because if you're a conscious, plants seeds that much and tells you how you should react, and sometimes you do it automatically, do you have control over that?
What do you think, Tamika?
Um, Sorry, I was trying to think about the question you asked before.
Okay, well,
Oh, can I go back to that?
yeah, go back to that, go back to
Oh,
that.
sorry. I was just thinking that it amazes me that I meet people and they show me their true selves. Um, I was in a group and the I was really interested by the group because those who are in a higher up position, like admins, it's like within the group there was a fight for power. like I'm the lead person here. And then I would hear the other admin say, well, I can do better than they can because
Mm,
I can lead the group in this direction. Or if somebody, I think one person, something happened where they got kicked out of the group, and the admin at the time was like, well, I kicked him out because he can't play in my sandbox. It was like lots of egos going on in the group. And I was just amazed at it. And I was like, I wonder, do the other members know about these people? Like,
mm,
Mm.
this ego that's going on. Unfortunately, it turned on me and I got kicked out. Some rumor they made up, some horrible situation I was put in. Um, and I'm fascinated with that too. I don't know if that's another show for another time. Just like using the situation to, like, the person's situation, like how they can't. I don't know. It's like if they don't seem to have the power, the perception that they don't have power, that the person in power can control the narrative.
Mm.
Like they can say this person was XYZ and that's why they were kicked out. And other people believe them. I've been in those situations where I haven't had the opportunity to tell my side of the story, but other people believe the person who has the power in a sense
mm.
without hearing the whole story. So I guess that's another show.
No, it isn't because
Is it?
it goes to the fact that ego is self-preservation, self-interest, and what will advance yourself, right? Which is a very odd thing if you think about it, because the whole world is constructed the fact that we're all interconnected. Something has to evolve for something else to have to evolve, right? So it makes us wonder what is it possible for humans just literally not killing each other at work, and
A
how we
paycheck.
advance the world so much with that much of a strong persona. Uh, this might be actually another discussion for another time, but it kind of means like the main person who's allowed to have an ego are the very rich people, and us the simpling people. We think we have an ego, but we don't really have a control. But yeah, it's a lot of self-interest. Hey, wait a second. Salut Julie, one of my friends. I worked at Ebox.
Oh.
So yeah, it's very self-centered, but there's ways to go against it, right? There's ways to kind of say your ego, shut the fuck up, let me do what I need to, because usually it's trying to protect you from not changing,
Yep.
because changing is fear, changing is
Mm.
the unknown. Now, I talked to recently Mr. Havana from Sweden, I think, on one of my podcasts I'm going to bring on soon, and he's trying to share a self-abundance mindset. Self-abundance mindset is giving to others without expecting in return, is to share knowledge, share your time, just to do it, right? And that goes against ego, because ego is like, what do I get out of it? I could give these comics to these kids that probably never had comics in their life, or I can be like, hey, tell your parents you can have them $50, have good memories, right? It's not much, and it's $50. You still have a profit. But if you give those kids a chance, maybe your parents are going to say no. Bam, your ego won, and screw the kids. I want my profit. The contrary is they might not have the money. I might actually open up the kid to new discoveries and thinking about them, and who God knows what effect it's going to be on them. And I do it, right? To do that, though, it needs a lot of training, a lot of understanding what your ego is trying to protect you from, self-interest. What do you think about what I just said, Tabika?
Oh no.
I know you're gonna just lay back and be like, hey, I'll think about it a bit.
I'm listening. I'm a thinker. I have to think before I speak. Louis. Oh, bonjour, by the way. I should have said that at first. But anyway. Yeah, I think yeah, self-interest is a part of having an ego. Just how can this benefit me? But I also think insecurity as well. Maybe wrapped up in having an ego because it's like I want to feel important. I want to be noticed.
Mm,
Like the example you said, I could give these kids these books for free. Um, or I, I don't know. I guess it's kind of like, and I don't mean to get biblical, but there's something in the Bible where it's like good deeds, right?
Mhm.
And it's like don't show your good deeds in public, like the Pharisees and Sadducees or the religious people. They want to put a show on and say, "Look, I did all this good
mm,
stuff. Look at me."
mm.
Um, but yeah, that's I don't know that answer your question, but these are the stream of thoughts that are coming out.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be my question. If that's what comes out of you, that means that's what your just that my your logic, your ego
Hmm.
made you understand, right? From your past experience. So whatever you say is still true. It comes from your perception.
Yes,
Now
French.
that being said, I wanted to look at. Do you guys see properly the screen?
Yes, we do.
Yep.
All right, John, who needs glasses?
John, we need
Yeah.
glasses.
Okay, so if it's John, if it's John approved, that we can go.
John,
Yeah.
John can't see. If you
Yeah.
can't see, then
All right. So look,
Yeah.
top 10 common defense mechanisms of the ego. Now, I'm going to read this. Dozens of different defense mechanisms have been identified. Some are used more commonly than others. In most cases, these psychological responses are not under a person's conscious control. That means you do not decide what you do when you do it. Here are the few common defense mechanisms. The first one, whew, am I guilty of it? It's denial. All right. There's just no, it's all good. It's not me. I didn't do that. Denial is one of the most common defense mechanisms. It occurs when you refuse to accept reality or facts, aka Trump. You
mhm.
block external events or circumstances from your mind so that you don't have to deal with the emotional impact. In other words, you avoid the painful feelings or events. This defense mechanism is one of the most widely known. The phrase "they're in denial" is commonly understood to mean a person is avoiding reality despite what may be obvious to people around them. All right, so that's a good thing to chew on. John, what are your thoughts about what we just heard?
Okay, so about denial and everything too, like it goes a lot to do with self-examination if you actually think about it. It's like, am I really as what people think of me as? And
Mm,
everything. Because your brain, the first thing that you think of is the fact that your brain wants to actually defend yourself, and it actually shuts down to where the first thing you want to do is defend yourself and everything else, but at the same time you have to slow yourself down and not think on impulse and everything too. You actually have to retrain your brain to be like, look, I need to actually do some self-examination. If more than one person is telling you the same thing, chances is they're noticing something that you probably never thought that in the first place. So I
Mhm.
know there was a lot of stuff within me and everything too, where I'm doing a lot of self examination to the point where I actually did a whole entire turnaround and stuff before.
mm.
Like I started just putting aside and writing down everything that everybody else is actually noticing, and then I put it to the test and be like, okay, yeah, I need to work on these areas right here because my brain isn't allowing me to actually believe what they're actually telling me. So therefore, I just need to go on ahead and focus in on changing this, not for them, but for me. So that way, I'm not the cancerous person and being the being that kind of person because I don't want to be that kind of person. So there's something in me that wants to change.
Yeah, and like and denial too goes like it's erasing the problem, right? Like I see the other ones after that, just repression, etc. Denial
Mhm.
is literally not registering the information. So when like so when people tell you and you just like you just like erase it, right, and move on. It seems surprising every time someone says it, right, because it doesn't register in your brain. Your brain just shuts it off completely. That happened to me a couple times, especially when in my emotional eating phases in my life. Like a couple people around me had to say, like, "Are you emotionally eating?" I'm like, "No." Why do you say that? Let me get my ice cream bucket. And like,
Yeah.
and you want to order pizza? And like, you sure you're not emotionally eating? No, I'm not. Who wants hot dogs? So that's denial. It just erases completely. Now, Tamika, do you have anything to say with denial, or you're gonna deny it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
No, yes, I've been in denial with a lot of things. Um, I guess like sometimes my friends say that I'm a bit distant. Um, but I was like, no, I don't seem that distant. I don't think I'm distant. Or they're like, well, we want to bring this up to you, but we weren't really sure. I guess I come off kind of hard, or like I have like a hard surface.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't know how to present this to you. But yeah, I'm still in the process. I think all of this, what we're talking about, is just a lifelong process. Like I like what John's doing. He's like writing down what people say to me and how I can change that. But that's gonna take a lifetime. But each little step we make makes us better.
It really does, honestly, we say it makes us better. We truly hope it is. It really
We
depends.
hope it does. Yeah.
It depends what the core motivation, right? Um, there's a difference between like money. Money is good, right? But there's a difference between I want to get rich because I want to help out the others who help me, right? And I would love to buy my mom a house and provide for my siblings and this and that. And you're not just thinking about yourself. Then it goes like I want to be rich because I want to control things. I want to invest my money to have my vision of the future. It's two goals of having money and richness, but the core motivation is completely different.
It can go both ways too. Like I've seen rappers that buy their moms cars and homes and they still want to be rich and control everything. So it can go both ways.
It depends on what level of money we're talking about, Tamika.
Okay, I'm sorry. You invited me to this show.
All right. So, second subject, my mover lover unite people, is repression. Unsavory thoughts, painful memories, irrational beliefs can upset you. Instead of facing them, you may unconsciously choose to hide them in hopes for forgetting them entirely. Does not mean, however, that these memories disappear. So it's not like erasing it. They may influence behaviors and they may impact future relationships. You may not realize the impact this defense mechanism is having. So basically, what it means is basically planting little seeds. This is the planting seed step that it impacts you enough that it sticks in your brain, right? But it's an echo, and your brain says, it's fucking in the brain. Okay, just put in the lost and found section of the brain. We'll dig it up one day. But at one point, repression, what happens when you repress something? At one point, when you squeeze, it is going to go up to the surface. And for me, in my sense, my ego did not permit me to accept my relationship with my mom, to the point that at one point I would see a mother-son relationship on TV. I didn't realize myself. My fists were clenched, my mouth was clenched, and at one point I had to recognize something's happening every time there's a mom scenario, right? And it started like a long time ago, but I was like, I'm okay, until I wasn't. And it started with little seeds. Is there, without maybe giving too much information, John, is there a moment like that little seeds planted in and then exploded at one point?
There's a couple that actually come to mind. I'm gonna give two examples if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the first one is like, there's always seems like a dad scenario with me. Mine is the opposite of what you have. Mine has to do with my dad. My my biological dad actually is a sperm donor,
Mm.
but but at the same time, I actually had two loving fathers. But it's like I want to hear the fact that they're proud of me. It's just something that I want. And one specific thing that I realized was, the Barry Allen scene in the Flash TV show where he's visiting his father,
Mm.
right? And his father's telling him that he's proud of him and things like that. Next thing I know it, I'm bawling like a little girl, basically, and stuff like that because of the fact that I want to actually hear that from my own biological father or someone that is close to me. And that's why I would break down, is because I didn't have that kind of connection or whatever, because I was always pretty much the black sheep of the family, if you actually think about it. But I wasn't really had a lot of positive influences in my life or anything. So that's another thing.
Were you
Uh,
aware of this, or it's only when you start seeing those things and make you crying and you having an emotional effect? Is that when you knew, or did you had an inkling that it was starting to grow?
well, at that moment, I didn't realize. At that moment, that was like the second time. The first time was whenever I saw the whole entire thing with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where Will Smith's father and everything leaves him and
Mm.
stuff. So it happened to me twice.
Mm.
So then I realized that I actually have a complex where I want to actually have a relationship with my father and just have that bond there that father and sons are supposed to have, and
Mm.
things that I want my father to actually teach me that he never actually got around to actually teach me or anything. That's another thing. So there's that. Another thing that brings an eye is, like, you're talking about bad memories and stuff, is being like bullied in high school and stuff like that, having bad acne because of the stress level that I was actually under and things like that, and even bad relationships to the point where I would actually, for a while, I rarely had any guy friends because I actually trusted more females because of the fact that I was backstabbed enough by my male friends to the point where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna end up hanging out with females and everything because of the fact that they actually understand me from a certain standpoint, and I feel safe in this area. But after a year or two or whatever, I decided to try again, and I've actually grown closer bonds with people in my own sex and everything too. So that's actually another thing. But red flags and relationships, things actually, someone that was actually narcissistic towards me in a relationship, I actually caught on to like red flags early on into a relationship, to the point where I can actually walk away rather than stay in the relationship thinking that things are going to get better when they're not. So that's actually a benefit, but I'm not sure if that has anything to do with envy or not, but it's just about self-realization and just examining again.
And Tamika, fast, we gave you time, Tamika. We gave you time. Uh,
I got a lot to take in.
and maybe not give an example, but what do you take out of repression and the little seeds that eventually kind of form your thoughts in the future?
Well, for me, you always say no examples, but we just want to pour our soul out to you, Frenchie. I don't know what
Uh,
it is
uh,
that you
uh,
do. You plant seeds.
I just want to go on to this though too. I told Tamika, if we were in an interrogation at the police
Oh,
department
I
and you
would
were the
crack.
interrogator,
I would
we would
crack.
end up ratting out everybody.
I would tell everything. I would squeal so much. I don't know
what,
what it is.
what you guys didn't realize that the last time you were on, you guys actually told me where the four bodies were and never realized it. All right. No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes. But for me, it's been just bad memories
Mm,
of like emotional abuse in relationships that I wasn't aware of, and I went to until I went to therapy. I wasn't. I don't know. It's like I wasn't really conscious of it at the time, but I just kind of went along with just everything being my fault,
mm,
or maybe I'm upsetting this person. Maybe I should just stop doing what I'm doing. And then I just kind of got lost in the relationship to the point where I just forgot who I was.
Mm,
So I've been still digging deep into that. And I think that's like a fear I have with being in relationships. Like, just, will I forget who I am in this new relationship? And men I come across, I feel like I'm like this wild horse that men want to tame or
mm,
to control and break.
mm,
Um, so I don't really feel comfortable being myself.
mm.
And I guess I still have lots to face with the abuse, just facing that, because I repress a lot too. Like you're saying, and I think people repress like me so they can just get along with their day. Like, okay, I gotta go to work. I gotta do this. I'm gonna deal with that later. Well, like you said, it comes to the surface, and eventually you just have to deal with it.
And boy, is it ugly when it does.
Yeah,
It's never a beautiful princess coming out. It's like this monster.
yeah. It's like Alien, which I keep talking about, the one that pops out the chest. I don't know why I keep talking about that. That's like the third time I talked about it.
Okay, John has mice. You have popping aliens out of the. We all are.
Like, that's what repression is. It's like bursts out your chest, and then it's like a face hugger. That's like, you would deal with me.
Now,
So,
moving on to something a bit more obscure, because this is something I learned later on in life. At first, I was like, wow, am I really like this? And then I realized, no, just the humans are just weird. Projection. Really weird phenomenon. So, some thoughts or feelings you have about another person may make you uncomfortable. If you project those feelings, you're misattributing them to the other person. For example, you may dislike new coworker, but instead of accepting that, you choose to tell yourself they dislike you. You see in
Mhm.
your action that things you wish you could or do or say, and it can be the contrary too. Like some people are like, "Oh, stop being an ass," clients, right? You're trying to tell me what to do, blah blah blah. I'm not. I'm explaining, right? What they're doing is actually telling me what they feel. They're trying to control what I do, and they're being an ass, but they don't know how to fully and truly communicate with me. So the only thing they can do is blame me for the way they feel and what they want to do, and they don't even realize it. Trying to reason with that kind of scenario is a lose lose, because they're only thinking about how you're making them
Mhm.
feel. And I've caught myself often doing it too, and it's hard, but there is a way to stop, step, and like, oh, is that really what they are, or it's what I'm feeling instead, right? Or reading a text. Texts are killer. Reading a text, you can put any emotion to it. It's like, so what do you mean, see you later? Well,
mhm.
I mean, see you later. Your emotions going to you're going to project your emotion onto that phrase. That can mean a lot of things more than what the other person actually truly meant it. So, Tamika, maybe again, maybe not give example, but um,
Okay.
could you explain what projection is in your own words, and is it something that affects you, or is something you can just push by?
Okay. I may give an example. I don't know why. This is why I can't be in an interrogation room with you. Um, I had a friend that I guess she was upset about something. I'm giving semi example. And I was like, "Oh, you're reading too much into it." Like I feel like in a way I projected upon her that she was reading too much into it when these were just her open feelings, like honestly how she felt.
Hmm.
The flip side, not her, but other people have projected onto me, guys. uh, like one guy was like, "Oh, we should go on a trip, go hiking or whatever." And we weren't really dating or anything. And I was like, "Well, we're not really dating. What's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, you're reading too much into it." just reading too much into it. I just want to go hiking at Friends. Jeez. Ugh, or I get stuff like that. Like, you're reading too much into it, and you're not like the other people. They don't feel so much, and you feel too much, and you're this, you're that. Like, I get that a lot from men. Like, you're too much. You're too emotional. Fill in the blank. That's what I am to
Well,
them.
sorry to them, but just because you can feel feelings and they can't,
Mhm.
because it's true. Feelings are uncomfortable for a lot of people, right? So if you are emotional and you express them and you gestate them, and certain people just go forward and like there's emotions on the side, they're like I must move forward, they don't stop and feel them. They just crash through and hope they don't burn eventually.
Well,
Uh,
especially in America, Frenchie, I have to say, we in America we are conditioned not to be weak and to feel anything. We must pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, and we will continue on.
mm.
And that's how you be patriotic. Anything that is weakness is horrible and is bad and it's not American. So that's what we're conditioned
Mhm.
in our society.
And it's funny because weakness is what you grow strength out of. You need manure and ash to grow trees and stuff. You need the shit to be able to learn,
Yeah,
experience,
you do.
and grow, right? And a lot of people forget that out of the pain comes a phoenix, comes a better self because you
Mhm.
live through things, right? And this is why some people, like the bad boys when they're younger because they want. Um, they want a relationship to hurt them for them to understand and grow unconsciously. That's why they keep getting themselves in bad situations. They're not at a point to be comfortable with their lives yet. They still need to learn things. And how do you learn? You get hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, okay, so big revelation, and sorry to hide your face, Tamika. Your face,
No idea what you're talking about. Larry, Larry.
but yeah, uh, going on quick. Instead of giving example, like
No
Tamika,
more examples,
no
John.
more
No more
example.
examples.
We're example tapped out, Tamika.
Okay, sorry.
Could you
I
maybe
felt too much. Sorry, felt too
uh,
much.
it, could you explain maybe why people do the projection? Why is it so easy for us to do projection and without realizing it?
Because I think it has a lot to do with basically your own self.
Mm.
Basically, you're blinded to your own self. You don't see yourself as everybody else sees you.
But
So it's
why do
easy
we do it though? Why do we do it like that way? Project.
because I believe that there's just blinders on us, like filters with the brain that just tries to protect us.
Mm.
Because the brain is probably thinking, okay, maybe that they are actually attacking me, so therefore I need to put these filters on so I can protect you. But really, what you're doing is you're actually just damaging your own self because of the fact that you may seem like it's a defense mechanism, but at the same time, you could wind up hurting somebody that's desperately trying to care for you and everything
Mm.
too. Even though it comes from a place of in the heart to the brain, it feels like that you're actually attacking the person. So therefore, it actually wants to turn on those filters to where it's basically when a kid is actually looking at a bad website, they just want to block it. So basically, that's what the brain is actually trying to do. It's just trying to project a blocker to where, you know, trying to protect you.
Yeah. All right. So on to we might not do everything because there's other things I wanted to check.
Hmm.
But rationalization. Some people may attempt to explain undesirable behaviors with their own set of facts. This
Mm.
allows you to feel comfortable with the choice you've made, even though you know on another level it's not right. For example, people who might be angry at coworkers for not completing work on time could be ignoring the fact that they are typically late too. You know, so it's true, right? Especially when it comes to decisions that are awkward, but like you're doing for self interest, right? But that self interest you covered up with, the better of everyone. You're at one point you start believing your own bullshit, right? Believing that, yeah, it's for my girlfriend. I'm buying the Lamborghini for me and my girlfriend.
Yeah.
She always wanted a red car, so yeah, but you can buy a freaking red SUV. So it's at one point rationalizing your actions, and sometimes they're premeditated, and this comes from personal experience. It's something I don't like to do, but I do. Sometimes you're like, okay, how can I spin this, right? How can this work, and for them to swallow better, and making them understand. And sometimes it just comes out of like pure reaction, and you start inventing reasons. And this is why people don't hate me sometimes, because for every rationalization you can have, I'm always having a way to like make you question it, and like, okay, but what about this? Have you thought about this? And when it starts failing, you can see those people always trying to find a new reason, right? Like an employee comes and be like, oh, I had this in this situation, I couldn't make it. Like, yeah, but you could have texted me. Oh, my cell phone was off, but I saw you live on Facebook 5 minutes ago. You were on. So, oh yeah, but I think that was my sister on my account. Like after a while, just stop rationalizing and leave your bullshit. Just tell me you didn't want to come into work.
Wow. First off, they shouldn't follow you or add you as a friend. That way you won't know what you're doing.
I bring people in. People tell me their secrets.
You do.
Facebook.
You told me no examples, and I'm just opening up my soul, and I hate it. So I don't come on your show.
And yet you're still on my show.
I know.
Right. We both are.
Very strange. I don't know what just happened to me. It's an out of body experience.
You're having a coffee, and next thing you know, you're in front of a computer. Like, what the fuck happened again?
Yeah. Louis drugged me again.
Now, rationalization is something that I think is pretty, obvious and everywhere. Maybe like this can be for our conversation. The last 4 years in America, the divide in America, the rationalization, it shows us how dangerous it could be and how out of control it could be. What do we do in the future, wherever the world is? What do we do to make sure that no one else or no other country in the world, or the US again, goes back to that state of mind?
I have no idea, because some of the people that are in that state of mind, they don't even want to hear the facts. They say that it's kind of like a mob mentality, or like we have a cult leader in the office, and there's like just people that are attracted to his power. I saw like the Daily Show, how they interviewed Trump supporters or whatever. Some of the people were saying things like Trump is like a rock star, or he's like it's like a celebrity. He's like up here to them, like they're people are attracted to that type of machismo, that power. Like, oh my God, he can get away with anything.
Yep.
So I don't know. Like, even if you try to sit down like you are, Frenchie, with somebody, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like their mind's just made up. They just have to go with the mob.
Yeah, and
nobody wants to be left out. They just, these people think one thing. It feels wrong, but I don't want to be left out. So I'm just going to go with what they think.
Yeah, and it's sad because we see we see the consequences, but this, like, especially the last 4 years, there's been so much ego on so many sides that you just do not have communication or alliances anymore, right? So look, I'm sorry to cut this a bit short. One last thing I do want to talk about, because I do this a lot. I work with numbers a lot. There's a lot of pie charts in front of me and a lot of like stupid people when it comes to clients. So I am definitely guilty about intellectualization. When you're hit with a trying situation, you may choose to remove all emotion from your responses and instead focus on quantitative facts. You might say this as strategy in use when a person who is let go from a job choose to spend their days creating spreadsheets of job opportunities and leads. It's true. Like there is a part of our ego
Mhm.
that is not fully connected to emotion. It's connected to logic, and you can see like the just almost do a mathematical equation of the situation, right? And that is enough to appease them, and it makes sense, and there's no problem. This is it, right? But it's scary because if you take off emotion out of the situation and you just see the number blocks, you kind of lose your humanity in certain things. You don't necessarily perceive things in a sympathetic or empathetic way, and you kind of forget the other person completely.
That is actually true. You become oversensitive, like hypersensitive, actually, if you actually think about it.
Okay, wait, Daniel. I don't hate. I look at statistics on YouTube every fucking
Oh
day,
my God.
every fucking day.
Oh,
I just pretend to hate them because I need to annoy you somehow. Enough
oh
said.
my God. Dang.
All right.
Damn.
Sorry to cut
Burn.
you off,
No, no, no. You're good. I'm glad that you got that out of your system. You're good.
John.
But but no, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that you can actually become hypersensitive to the fact that somebody's actually trying to help, but at the same time, it's all about, like I said before, about sensitivity and like the filters and blocking you, and then you feel like they're being attacked rather than somebody saying something positive about you, and then it's the exact opposite of what you actually thought that you had envisioned in your mind of who you thought you once who you are, and that person's bringing all those negativities to the table, and it's like bam, 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 and you're
Mm,
just being hit after hit after hit to the point where you're wind up being defending very defensive and everything, to the point
mm.
where you're actually hypersensitive and ignoring the facts that the other person is actually bringing to you when you might actually have a problem and you're not even self-aware of it. So that's also another thing.
Mm.
Mm.
All right. Is there last words you want to add in, Tamika?
Yes, I'll be quick because as you know, when I talk, I go in a circle. So I'm trying to be quick. I think too that you can, with this, you can also dehumanize people.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Um, like you can hurt someone and you say, well, like projection, they shouldn't have got hurt. It's their fault
Mm.
that I did this to them. Um, so yeah, I think that's what I'll leave off on because
All
I
right.
forgot my train of thought. So yeah, that was good enough for me.
All right. So there's a little thing I read here. It's funny and it's so true. So I wanted to read it. The mind is amazingly arrogant. It
Yeah.
simply wants to believe what it wants to believe. It doesn't want to let go and is happy to stay in its own little bubble of consciousness.
Mhm.
That's so true. That's why
Yep.
the suburban families of the white people, even today's age, our life is good, and then the black family comes in and
Yeah.
challenges everything, and the little bubble of consciousness just get burst, and they want to believe that they were safe, and now the crime is coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's especially if an individual is not curious about the rest of the world, other points of views. They're just content of having their own point of view, and that is reality, and
Hmm.
nothing else is right. Well, you don't advance, right? But yet it seems like most humans are like that, except for a couple of a schmucks exceptions.
Don't get me started on all
Yeah.
that, Frenchie. That's another what you just said. That's another show. I get that too. It's like clench your purse. Oh no, she's gonna rob me. I'm like, I got my own money, bitch. I don't need your money. That's what I say in my head instead of my
I'd be like, you want to take my five?
Right.
You steal my
yeah.
Right.
Oh,
money.
sorry.
That's okay. But it's true, right? I mean, and this, I yes, I am guilty, but I do have at least a capacity sometimes to like, okay, let's take your point, let's try to merge, let's see, right? But some people, I realize nothing is going to go through them unless they realize themselves. You can say the most logical things. How Jesus could come down on earth and be like, he's right. And he'd be like, nah, you know?
Yeah, they're like, that's not Jesus.
There's
It's like, what?
just something off with him.
Yeah. There's some guy with lightning behind him.
And then-
Greg, is that you with a beard?
Yeah. Yeah. Or like with the virus, it's like, oh, there's no virus. I can't see it.
Mhm.
And then you're like, have people walking around without masks. And I heard one lady in the grocery store, she's like, well, I haven't known anybody affected by it. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, like last time someone said like, oh, it doesn't exist because I don't see it. It's a hoax. Like, sadly, I turned to them and I said, and so you can't see brain tumors either. Do you think it exists?
Well,
Oh man, I wish
that's
I
like
had
saying that's like saying you don't believe in gravity and everything, and then you jump off a building and then you die.
that. Yeah, I
so-
wish some of those people would do that.
Hey.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Positive show. Sorry. You're right. You're right.
Not positive, but we don't want
I'm
people
sorry.
killing
I'm
themselves.
sorry. Yes, sir.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Don't do that. Yeah, I need to come with a disclaimer. I forgot to tell you that.
I just woke her, so she just became woke.
All right.
He doesn't even put a disclaimer on me. He just let me go, wow. It's his fault.
Well, look, Dabika, I love you, but sometimes filters are good.
I'm sorry. I'll work on that. Thank you.
Wait, give me continue the conversation. Just give me 1 second, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Wait, is this me? Is this me?
Yeah, this is you.
Is this
I'm
me?
me. Yeah, I'm me. You are you. I'm me.
Oh, sorry. I saw something pop up that said like Adobe, and I was like, "Is that me? Is that my
Oh,
computer? Is that
no.
computer?" I was like, "Do I need to update on Adobe?"
Keep this not represented. I'm dead.
This is why people say I'm too much. This is why I can't be my full self.
All right. So look, now going, I wanted to have a movie guys. Since you are movie lovers unite, I had to attach this. Have you guys ever seen the movie Revolver?
No, but I
No.
want to.
Yeah.
All right, look. Revolver stars Jason Statham. It's directed by Guy Ritchie, actually. And it's very little known movie, but it is a mind trip. I'll read you the description. In the movie Revolver, their ego is each one's arch enemy. When egos are at war, people are known for doing things that they later regret. The Revolver movie professes that in a game of con, there is an opponent and a victim, and your own ego is your opponent, and you become the victim.
Wow.
It is a mind blown type of movie. Not everyone's gonna get it at first. There's a lot of things to dissect. There's even Andre 3000 from Outkast that plays in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I think I did see that before, now that you mentioned the plot and everything, but it's been a long time. Last time I saw it was when I was in housekeeping in the x-ray office. So
Mhm.
Mr. Green and Mr. Gold, does that tell you anything?
yeah, I still I remember that. I just have to go back and rewatch it because that is a good movie.
It's an amazing movie, especially when you understand who the villain is. It's such a powerful message. And Jason Statham, personally, best movie he ever made, and he has hair, so that's weird to
What?
see. Yeah, he has hair in that movie.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
But if you guys want to watch a movie that's really deeply theming into the ego and what does that represent, it really makes you think, who is control, or how much do you have in control of your own ego and what it says to you and what you choose to believe or not, because that's what the ego's role is. it presents you information. It presents you like you should be wary of this. You should not think this. You should think about this. And then we are the passengers saying and grabbing whatever the ego says. And at one point becomes your reality. Like in the movie, the main character is claustrophobic to a point, right? Could not go in the elevator. When he does, he panics. But at one point, he kind of realizes, that is his ego saying, you cannot be in closed spaces. There's no actual reason why he can't. So he decides to do something else. And actually, by going against his ego, not listening to it, he actually survives an attack he would have not survived. So by detaching your ego, you actually open up your possibilities and evolve and not stay back and die. It's really deep. It's really an important movie personally when it comes to the deeper subjects that usually movies don't touch on, and I highly recommend to watch it.
I have one on repression because Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I kept thinking about that when we were talking about repression. Like even when they took out all the thoughts of his girlfriend, like his previous relationship, somehow they found their way back into his subconscious. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and one of the best Jim Carrey performances, his most complete. Like it's not just humor, it's not just drama, it's emotional, and it really deserves to be watched.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so look, we're gonna wrap things up, but thank you very much for letting your egos back and just say the truth and like communicate the feelings, because it is hard, right? But every time we do, we find new things and we can grow, and especially doing it in a community, it helps, right? Because especially these time of ages, we feel alone.
Definitely.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so look, where can the peoples find you?
All right, so you guys can actually find us on Movie Lovers Unite, and we have a YouTube podcast. You can find it wherever you get your podcast from. We also have a GoFundMe page that you guys can actually check out whenever you check out the channel. It'll be in the show descriptions below. You can also follow us on Instagram at Movie Lovers TV Lovers Unite. We also have a Facebook page that's been up and running since 2013 called Movie Lovers TV Lovers Unite. You can also find us on Pinterest at Movie Lovers TV Lovers Unite, and of course on Twitter at Movie Lovers Unit. And that's everywhere that you can actually find us.
And we have a Patreon.
Yep, and we also have a Patreon.
Yeah.
What would he do without you, Tamika?
I don't know. I keep telling him that, but he doesn't. Hey, I don't know.
Just because of that, Tamika.
Never coming on this show again.
2 weeks after, hey, welcome back, Tamika.
Come back.
That's what you do to me. You take this part out of my mind, and I'm like, I felt like I was here before.
Damn it! Every time I drink a coffee, it's his fucking show. No recollection in between.
Yeah, I wasn't here before.
All right, so thank you again very much for being on the show. I'm not sure what's going on my side for holidays. I know we're all pretty busy, but hoping we can regather very soon. If we don't have the chance to talk before Christmas, have a merry jolly holiday.
You too, man. Have a merry jolly Christmas to you too.
Yeah, we love Canada. I don't know where that came from, but we love it.
You just don't love you don't love snow, apparently, madam. I'm going to Florida.
For the record, I was just going to say
it wasn't my choice to go to Florida. The family wanted to go to Florida. This is like a Home Alone situation for me.
Denial. All right.
Yep.
There's no Christmas trees in Florida.
Rationalizing? Yeah, okay.
See what he did there? He flipped it.
I'm not coming back on this show.
All right, so thank you very much. Je vous souhaite a bonsoir. And I don't care what I say on life. Don't get out of here, Tamika. Stay on. All right.